What if I told you that one of history's most mysterious empires made a decision so bold, so unexpected, that it still shocks historians today? The Khazars, a powerful kingdom standing between East and West, didn't just influence trade and politics. They chose a religious path that set them apart from all their neighbors. For centuries, their story was hidden, debated, and even denied. But now, the truth is resurfacing. In this video, we uncover the Khazar Empire's big surprise, the choice that changed their destiny, and why it still matters today. History is full of moments where unexpected decisions change the course of entire peoples, empires, and even civilizations. One such moment belongs to the Khazar Empire, a medieval kingdom that thrived between the 7th and 10th centuries. The Khazars, a Turkic-speaking people who ruled vast territories in the steppes of Eurasia, shocked the world with a choice so unusual that it still fascinates historians, theologians, and storytellers today. This was not a victory on the battlefield, nor a revolution in governance, but something far more profound. Their leaders, and a significant portion of their elite, chose to embrace Judaism as their official faith. This decision, often referred to as the Khazar conversion, stands as one of the greatest surprises in world history. Why? Because in a region dominated by Christian Byzantium to the west and the expanding Islamic Caliphate to the south and east, the Khazars deliberately aligned themselves with neither. Instead, they chose a minority faith that had no empire, no political advantage, and no military alliance behind it. To truly understand the magnitude of this surprise, we must first explore who the Khazars were, what led to their fateful decision, and why their story continues to echo across time. Who were the Khazars? The Khazars emerged as a major power in the steppes of Eurasia around the 7th century. They were part of the vast Turkic migrations, and like many steppe peoples, they were skilled horsemen, traders, and warriors. Their empire stretched across what is today southern Russia, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, and the Caucasus region. Strategically located between the Byzantine Empire to the west, the rising Islamic caliphates to the south, and the nomadic powers of Central Asia to the east, the Khazars controlled vital trade routes connecting Europe and Asia. They collected tribute, facilitated commerce along the Silk Road, and developed an urban society with strong economic foundations. By the 8th century, they had built a stable and prosperous empire with a capital at Adal on the Volga River. They were known not only for their military might, but also for their ability to maintain a delicate balance between powerful neighbors. Yet it was their religious decision that gave them their most enduring mark in history, the religious crossroads. The Khazar Empire sat at a literal and spiritual crossroads. To the west, Christianity had become the dominant force in Byzantium and was spreading northward into Slavic lands. To the south, Islam was rapidly expanding under the Umayyad and Abbasid caliphates, bringing a vast cultural and religious wave into Central Asia, Persia, and the Caucasus. Most empires in this period adopted the faith of their neighbors for political advantage. For instance, the Bulgars embraced Christianity, aligning themselves with Byzantium. Many Turkic tribes in Central Asia adopted Islam under the influence of the Caliphate. The Khazars, however, took a different path. Around the 8th or 9th century, sources vary on the exact timing, the ruling elite of the Khazars officially adopted Judaism. This was extraordinary. Judaism had no empire backing it. The Jewish people were scattered across the Middle East, North Africa, and parts of Europe, often living as minorities under Christian or Muslim rule. By embracing Judaism, the Khazars made a conscious decision not to align themselves with either of the two dominant world powers of their time. Why did the Khazars convert to Judaism? The question of why the Khazars converted has been the subject of endless debate. Historians, religious scholars, and political theorists have offered several explanations. 1. Political neutrality. The most widely accepted theory is that the Khazars adopted Judaism as a way of maintaining political independence. By choosing neither Christianity nor Islam, the Khazars avoided falling under the cultural or political influence of Byzantium or the Caliphate. Judaism offered a third way, a path that allowed them to remain neutral in the religiously divided world around them. 2. Geopolitical strategy. Religion in the medieval world was not only a matter of faith, but also of diplomacy. By converting to Judaism, the Khazars could negotiate trade and political relations with both Christian and Muslim powers, without being subordinate to either. This helped them maintain their role as middlemen in trade, controlling goods from the Silk Road to Europe. 3. Cultural influence. There were already Jewish communities living in Khazaria, likely merchants who had settled along trade routes. Their presence may have influenced the Khazar ruling class, offering an example of a sophisticated monotheistic tradition distinct from the surrounding empires. 4. Religious curiosity. Some sources suggest that the Khazars were genuinely curious about religion. Stories describe how their rulers invited representatives of Christianity, Islam, and Judaism to debate before the court. In these accounts, the Khazar leaders found Judaism most convincing, though these tales may be more legend than fact. The evidence for conversion. The Khazar conversion has been documented in multiple sources, though the exact details remain debated. The Khazar correspondence. This refers to letters exchanged in the 10th century between Hasdai ibn Shaprat, a Jewish diplomat in Muslim Spain, and King Joseph of the Khazars. In these letters, the Khazar king openly describes the conversion of his people to Judaism. Medieval chronicles. Both Muslim and Christian chroniclers refer to the Khazars as Jews or as rulers who practiced Judaism. While some of these accounts may be exaggerated, the consistency across different sources adds credibility. Archaeological evidence. Traces of Jewish artifacts, including inscriptions and symbols, have been found in areas once controlled by the Khazars. While historians debate the scope of the conversion, whether it was just the ruling elite or a wider portion of the population, the surprise remains: a powerful empire officially embraced Judaism. The impact of the conversion. The Khazar conversion had profound consequences for the empire. 1. A unique identity. The adoption of Judaism gave the Khazars a distinct identity. They were no longer just another steppe empire. They were a Jewish kingdom in the middle of Eurasia. This uniqueness made them both respected and distrusted by their neighbors. 2. Diplomatic flexibility. By avoiding alignment with Byzantium or the Caliphate, the Khazars preserved their independence for centuries. They acted as intermediaries in trade and diplomacy, benefiting economically from their neutrality. 3. Religious tolerance. The Khazar Empire became known for its religious diversity. Sources suggest that Christians, Muslims, Jews, and pagans all lived within the empire, often practicing their faiths freely. The adoption of Judaism did not eliminate this diversity, but rather added to the empire's pluralism. The decline of the Khazar Empire. Despite its surprising religious choice and centuries of success, the Khazar Empire eventually declined. By the 10th century, the rise of new powers weakened their position. The Rus, a group of Scandinavian and Slavic peoples who would later form the foundations of Russia, began pushing southward. The Pecheneg and other nomadic groups challenged Khazar dominance on the steppes. Eventually, Khazaria fell, and by the 11th century, the empire had disappeared from the map. Yet the memory of their great surprise, the conversion to Judaism, remained. The Khazars in modern imagination. The Khazars' story did not end with their decline. In later centuries, they became the subject of myths, legends, and debates. Jewish historiography. For Jewish communities scattered across Europe and the Middle East, the story of the Khazar conversion was inspiring. It was a reminder that even in the medieval world, entire nations could embrace Judaism. Modern conspiracy theories. In more recent times, some have misused the Khazar story for political agendas, particularly in debates over Jewish identity and history. These claims often distort the historical record, but they highlight how powerful the Khazar surprise remains in the cultural imagination. Literature and popular culture. The Khazars have appeared in novels, academic debates, and even science fiction, often portrayed as a mysterious and enigmatic people. Why the Khazar surprise still matters. The Khazar Empire's big surprise matters for several reasons. 1. It challenges assumptions about history. We often assume that nations adopt religions for political gain or military alliance. The Khazars defied this by choosing a faith that offered neither. Their decision reminds us that history is not always predictable. 2. It highlights the role of choice. The Khazar story shows that religion in history was not always imposed from above by larger empires. Sometimes, smaller powers made bold and independent choices that shaped their destiny. 3. It reveals the diversity of the past. The medieval world was far more diverse than many imagine. The existence of a Jewish empire in Eurasia highlights the complex tapestry of cultures, beliefs, and peoples that shaped history. 4. It offers a lesson for today. In a world still divided by religion and ideology, the Khazars' choice serves as a reminder of the power of independence, identity, and the courage to take an unexpected path. The Khazar Empire's big surprise, choosing Judaism against the tide. History is often told through the lens of empires that embraced dominant religions. Rome with Christianity, Arabia with Islam, and India with Hinduism and Buddhism. But every so often, there emerges a story that defies patterns, a story so unusual that it continues to puzzle historians centuries later. Among these rare events, one of the most remarkable is the decision of the Khazar Empire, a medieval Turkic polity on the steppes of Eurasia, to adopt Judaism as the official religion of its ruling elite. This choice stands out not only because it was unexpected, but because it was made in a world defined by two overwhelming powers, the Christian Byzantine Empire to the west and the Islamic caliphates to the south and east. Instead of aligning with either of these religious giants, the Khazars deliberately embraced a faith that had no empire, no worldly protector, and no geopolitical advantage. Their decision was a conscious act of independence, a declaration of cultural and political uniqueness. In this exploration, we will retrace the history of the Khazars, the context of their surprising decision, the debates surrounding their motives, and the enduring legacy of this extraordinary moment. Who were the Khazars? The Khazars were a semi-nomadic Turkic people who rose to prominence during the 7th century. Emerging from the collapse of earlier steppe empires, such as the Western Turkic Khaganate, they established a powerful state that came to dominate the Pontic, Caspian steppe, the Caucasus, and parts of Central Asia. At their height, the Khazar Empire stretched from the Caspian Sea in the east to the Black Sea in the west. Their territory included fertile river valleys, bustling trade cities, and nomadic grasslands. They controlled key trade routes that connected Europe and Asia, acting as middlemen between the Byzantine Empire, the Islamic caliphates, and the Silk Road merchants of Central Asia. The capital city, Adal, located on the Volga River, became a thriving hub of commerce. Merchants from distant lands, Persians, Arabs, Byzantines, Jews, and Slavs, passed through its markets. This cosmopolitan environment exposed the Khazars to many cultures, ideas, and religions. By the 8th century, The Khazars had become one of the most stable and prosperous powers of the Eurasian steppe. But while their military strength and economic influence were impressive, it was their religious decision that left the deepest mark in history. A world of two faiths. To understand the Khazar surprise, we must first grasp the religious climate of their time. The 7th to 9th centuries were dominated by two superpowers whose identities were closely tied to religion. The Byzantine Empire was the bastion of Christianity, centered in Constantinople. It saw itself as the guardian of Orthodox Christian faith. Byzantine emperors sought to expand their influence northward, converting Slavic peoples and asserting dominance in the Balkans and beyond. The Islamic caliphates, first the Umayyads, then the Abbasids, represented the rapidly expanding power of Islam. By the 8th century, they controlled lands stretching from Spain to Central Asia, spreading not only religion, but also Arabic culture, science, and law. Most smaller states that came into contact with these superpowers eventually adopted one or the other. The Bulgars accepted Christianity, while Turkic tribes in Central Asia gradually embraced Islam. Aligning with one of these faiths often meant aligning with the empire that promoted it, securing military protection, and gaining entry into powerful networks of trade and diplomacy. The Khazars, however, did not follow this pattern. The big surprise: adoption of Judaism. At some point between the 8th and 9th centuries, scholars debate the exact timeline. The Khazar ruling class converted to Judaism. The details of this conversion are shrouded in legend and partial evidence, but multiple independent sources confirm its occurrence. Sources of evidence: the Khazar correspondence. Letters exchanged in the 10th century between Hasdai ibn Shaprut, a Jewish diplomat in Muslim Spain, and King Joseph of the Khazars provide the most direct account. In these letters, King Joseph describes how his ancestors debated the merits of Christianity, Islam, and Judaism before ultimately embracing Judaism. Arab and Persian historians, Muslim chroniclers such as al-Masudi and Ibn al-Faqih mention the Khazars as a people whose leaders practiced Judaism. Byzantine accounts. Christian writers also acknowledge the Khazar conversion, often with suspicion or hostility, seeing it as a strange departure from the norm. Archaeological evidence. Artifacts with Jewish symbols have been uncovered in Khazar territories, though the evidence is not extensive. While historians debate the extent of the conversion, was it just the ruling elite, or did it spread widely among the population? There is little doubt that Judaism became the official religion of Khazar kings and nobles. Why did the Khazars choose Judaism? The motives behind this remarkable choice remain a subject of fascination. Several theories have been proposed, each shedding light on different aspects of Khazar politics, culture, and identity. 1. Political neutrality. The most persuasive explanation is that the Khazars sought to remain neutral between their two powerful neighbors. Adopting Christianity might have aligned them too closely with Byzantium, risking subordination. Choosing Islam would have drawn them into the orbit of the caliphate. By embracing Judaism, a faith respected but not dominant, they avoided dependence on either empire. 2. Assertion of independence. Religion in the medieval world was not just spiritual but political. By selecting a path that neither Byzantium nor the caliphate could claim, the Khazars asserted their independence. Their choice was a declaration: "We are not beholden to you." 3. Influence of Jewish communities. Jewish merchants and settlers were present in Khazaria long before the conversion. Their prominence in trade networks and their distinct religious identity may have inspired the Khazars, who valued the benefits of connecting to global trade while standing apart from their immediate rivals. 4. Religious curiosity and debate. Medieval legends describe the Khazar ruler inviting representatives of Christianity, Islam, and Judaism to his court to debate their faiths. According to the story, he asked each which of the other two was superior. Both the Christian and the Muslim representatives admitted that Judaism was at least preferable to the other rival faith. Whether true or symbolic, this tale illustrates the perception that the Khazars approached religion with pragmatic reasoning. The impact of the conversion. The Khazar adoption of Judaism had significant consequences, both within their empire and in the wider world. 1. A unique identity. By embracing Judaism, the Khazars created an identity distinct from any other steppe or Eurasian power. They were no longer just another nomadic empire. They were the only Jewish kingdom of their time. This uniqueness set them apart in world history. 2. Diplomatic advantage. While neutrality was the aim, their choice also gave them leverage in negotiations. They could deal with Christian Byzantium and the Muslim Caliphate without appearing subordinate to either. Their religious distinctiveness was, paradoxically, a diplomatic strength. 3. Cultural pluralism. Despite their ruling elite's adoption of Judaism, Khazaria remained religiously diverse. Muslims, Christians, Jews, and pagans coexisted in the empire. Accounts describe judges from different faiths presiding over cases involving their co-religionists. This pluralism was rare for the time and may have contributed to Khazaria's stability. 4. Perceptions by neighbors. The Khazar choice was met with suspicion by neighbors. Byzantines and Muslims both saw them as outsiders, neither allies nor enemies in faith. This ambiguity sometimes worked in Khazaria's favor, but it also isolated them when larger powers sought to dominate the region. The decline of the Khazar Empire. The Khazar Empire flourished for several centuries, but by the 10th century its power began to wane. The rise of the Rus in the north, a federation of Scandinavian and Slavic peoples, gradually eroded Khazar dominance. Nomadic invasions from the east and internal challenges further weakened their state. By the mid-11th century, Khazaria had collapsed, its cities destroyed, and its people absorbed into neighboring cultures. Yet even in disappearance, the Khazars left behind the memory of their remarkable choice. The Khazars in memory and myth. Long after the fall of Khazaria, the story of their conversion to Judaism continued to resonate. For Jews, the Khazar story was a source of pride and fascination. It demonstrated that an entire kingdom in the heart of the medieval world had embraced their faith voluntarily. In European thought, medieval Europeans often referred to the Khazars with suspicion, sometimes portraying them as mysterious outsiders. In modern times, the Khazar story has been co-opted into various debates about Jewish history, sometimes responsibly, sometimes distorted by conspiracy theories. Regardless of misuse, the fascination endures because of the uniqueness of the event. Why the Khazar surprise still matters. The Khazar adoption of Judaism remains one of the most remarkable stories in world history because it defies expectations. It challenges the idea that religion was always imposed by empires or adopted for power. It highlights the agency of smaller states in shaping their own destinies. Moreover, it reminds us of the diversity of the past. The medieval world was not a simple binary of Christian versus Muslim. There were alternatives, complexities, and surprising choices. The Khazars, by choosing Judaism, embodied this complexity in the boldest way possible. Finally, their story carries lessons for today. In a world where cultural and political pressures often push societies toward conformity, the Khazars' decision speaks to the enduring human desire for independence, identity, and self-definition, even when it defies the logic of power. The Khazar Empire's adoption of Judaism remains a remarkable chapter in the tapestry of world history. At a time when Christianity and Islam dominated the political and spiritual map, the Khazars carved out a third path. Their decision was a surprise not only to their contemporaries, but to every generation that has studied them since. Though their empire eventually fell, the boldness of their choice lives on. It is a story that continues to intrigue historians, inspire reflection, and remind us that history is not only made by the powerful, but also by those who dare to choose differently. The Khazars' big surprise, the embrace of Judaism, was more than a religious shift. It was a statement of independence, a declaration of identity, and a testament to the unpredictability of human history. And there you have it, the Khazar Empire's great secret, a choice that reshaped their destiny and left a legacy still debated today. Their story reminds us that history is never simple, and sometimes the boldest decisions echo across centuries. If you found this journey into the past eye-opening, make sure to hit that like button. Share this video with others who love hidden history, and subscribe for more deep dives into the mysteries of our world. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and remember, history always has another surprise waiting.